Hey everyone, and welcome to the Fairfax Sports Report. My name is Greg Wyszynski of the Connection Newspapers, BJ Kubaroulis of the Connection Newspapers, and tonight we have some special guests. We have lots of sports news and all kinds of exciting stuff here on the Fairfax Sports Report tonight. This is our first show of the post-Jeff Graham era here on FSN.
And as I shed tears, I can only imagine the opportunities that we will have to spend time with two important young gentlemen to the Vienna and Northern Region community tonight from the Madison baseball team.
Really?
I'm very excited.
And they're here on our show?
They are.
Fantastic. Well, before we get to them and all sorts of fun and excitement and adventure here on the Fairfax Sports Report, we want to thank the folks that make it possible for us to do this wonderful show every week. We're, of course, talking about the underwriters, people like CCI Screen Printing for all of your screen printing needs, 703-978-0257. And Quality Care Ford Service Center, servicing all makes and models, 703-383-6299. And BJ, did you know that there is a book out called Glow Pucks and 10 Cent Beer, that I am the author of that book?
Hey, Manute Bold does make an appearance in that book.
Available online at all booksellers around, So anyways, there it is. And let's get right to some news and notes before we go and talk some baseball on the show. The regional council meeting happened last week. And as has become sort of tradition at the regional council meetings, some money was requested, particularly from our friends in the National District.
And it's funny that you should mention tradition, Greg, because there is a steep tradition in the National District for asking the Northern Region for funds. And, you know, at this point, the Northern Region, which has given the National District $33,000 to date this year, had to give another $13,000, which brought it to that $33,000 mark. And it doesn't sound like a whole lot of money to a bunch of viewers out there, but really, if you think about the four districts coming to the Northern Region, if each one of them were to take $33,000 every year, according to Robinson Principal Dan Meyer, who is the chairman of the Northern Region Council, the committee and the region's bank account would be in dire straits. So it's quite an issue that they have to resolve. They are going to come back to the next meeting, which is the final meeting of the year, to discuss how they can economize the National District and how they can start to make some more money. Edison's Martin Grimm did make the point. Look, when people aren't showing for games, people aren't showing for games, and it seems to be a problem in the National District. You know, gate tickets are your main source of revenue to make you self-sufficient, and they just don't have people coming out to games.
Edison is one of the schools that draws. Yorktown draws. Mount Vernon can draw. But then you have Stewart, Falls Church, Wakefield, Washington Lee, and they're not going to anything. I mean, They go to basketball, but they don't go anything in the spring. And this has been going on year after year after year. They always come in, they ask for a ton of money to support those sports because they don't have any gate revenue coming in. And I thought that in your story this week in the Connection Newspapers, you had a quote from Mark Merrill, the principal at Madison, saying, "We need to do something different to help generate revenue for the National District." What like a bake sale? You know, what's the solution to a systemic problem? I mean, there's really no way to solve it other than to continue to supplement the gate revenue they don't get through these stipends from the region.
And a lot of people don't realize what they need the funds for. They have to produce funds to make awards at the end of every season for the players, and those things cost money. And you know, around here in the other part of Fairfax, you have a lot of booster clubs that are let's be honest, they're raking in the money. They've got a lot of good donors, and Gates are doing well, and they're doing really well. Oakton High School's putting in a multi-million-dollar Bermuda grass complex, and they can do that because they have support from their booster club.
Right.
The National District, on a different economic level in the
echelon,
Arlington
if you will.
echelon, which is something we've discussed on this show before, they can't hang with that. And the National District was hurt this year by Loudoun Valley being in there, and they'll be stuck there for another year until they're going into the Cedar Run District in the Northwest Region, not this year, but next year following. And according to Yorktown DSA Mike Krufeld, the same problem's going to happen next year. They're going to ask for that money again, and economize all you want. It's a problem, and it has to be addressed.
There you go. Other news notes: Scotty Reynolds released from Oklahoma. This, of course, ends a pretty interesting saga over the last month for Scotty.
Yeah, we were talking about it today in the office, and everybody saw that coming. Personally, I believed he might have given Oklahoma another shot. He still can. The option is still there to go back. VCU coach Jeff Capel, former coach, is now there. But the interesting part about it now, Greg, is that we talked about it today. Kelvin Sampson has written in his contract in Indiana, the coach that left Oklahoma, he can be fired for any more sanctions that are put on the school and himself from the Oklahoma sanctions that were put on by the NCAA.
Exactly. So he might be released himself at some point. Who knows? Who knows? Anyways, and then the other basketball note is Jasmine Thomas and Dorena Campbell, two of the brightest young stars in girls basketball here in the Northern Region and in the entire state. EA All-Americans, BJ?
EA All-Americans. They were selected, two of three from Virginia selected as All-Americans. Jasmine was also a parade All-American. So the awards keep rolling in from the record holder at Oakton High School. She holds every record there, basketball-wise. It's not just girls basketball. She's got all the boys basketball records too. It's pretty special. She's only a junior, so we have to see her for another year, and I think she's going to wow us.
And the real question, will she be in NBA Live 2007?
I can't wait. She's got a sick crossover. You hit the X and just jack it over with the L1, man. It's nasty.
Sounds good. All right, let's get to some baseball. We have some super special guests with us tonight, BJ. And why don't you make with the introductions for our fantastic guests from the most successful baseball program in the Northern Region.
Well, the most fantastic baseball program in the Northern Region is Madison High School. They've got an 18-1 record, and they've only got one loss in the Liberty District. We're going to rib them a little bit about that later in the show. I'm sure they'll love that. But to my immediate left, we have Mark Riffey, and to his left, we have Jason Farley. We've got the bat, and we've got the pitching over here as well. So we're going to talk all about how Madison has been able to jump out to such an incredible start and finish, really, of the regular season. They won their sixth district title, and that would be the sixth in the last 7 years, I believe, if I have that correct.
But who's counting?
A couple people in Vienna are. But
well, let's go down the rundown here for Madison baseball. 2006 Liberty District champions, right? 18-1, 12-1 in the district, 156 runs scored, 37 runs allowed. So, Farley's doing his job.
So we've got the
1.24 ERA, a little dyslexic there, sorry. 4 consecutive shutouts, 9 shutouts a season, ranked nationally by everyone's favorite hotel doormat. That is impressive. That is very impressive.
What I really like to look at there is the pitching staff's 1.24 ERA. We've got Jason Farley here with us tonight. The team's also hitting lights out, so we're going to get a chance to talk with UVA signee Mark Riffey, who's also here with us, who's helping contribute with his .400 batting average. First, let's really get to know these guys. We've got a couple graphics we'd like to throw up on the screen and show you about these guys and what they've been able to produce for the Madison Warhawks storied baseball program this year. Mark Riffey's a senior outfielder. He's got a .400 batting average, .515 on base percentage. He scored 22 runs this year, 16 RBI. He's stolen 19 bases. And Mark, you're going to the University of Virginia. And I know that's something I got a chance to talk to you about when you did sign with UVA. And, a lot of guys, junior year, it's a big deal. They're trying to put up those numbers. They're trying to really impress the scouts. And a lot of times, senior year, they don't live up. But you seem to do that. What is the pressure like individually? And we'll get to team ball as well. Individually, what's the pressure like as being named as one of the Northern Region's big names? What's the pressure like to be able to produce those numbers?
Well, I don't really feel any pressure to do that. I think with the guys we have on our team, I just need to go out there and do my thing every night and contribute as much as I can, because I know that all the guys behind me in the lineup, they're going to do their thing too. And if I have a bad game, they're going to pick me up.
So the question is what part of your game, now that you're a senior doing the UVA thing, what part of your game has sort of come along since you first got to Madison? What part do you think has been the one that's improved the most since you've been there?
I'd have to say probably my ability to get on base and score runs. I think that's my job as a leadoff man. So I'm just looking to produce as much as I can, just get on base any way I can, whether it's walk, hit, get hit by a pitch, bunt, anything I have to do, get on base. And then once I'm on base, I feel confident stealing bases and just doing whatever I can do to advance and give my teammates a job to hit me in.
19 stolen bases is pretty impressive, but you've got some catching up to do with your buddy at McLean, don't you?
I saw the Washington Post.
Front page of Washington Post story about the kid at McLean for stealing bases.
Pretty impressive. Yeah.
And we're going to get a chance to talk to these young gentlemen about the McLean game this year. It is the one stain on their record, and I know they're not happy about it.
All right.
Before we get there, let's get an opportunity to tell the viewers at home a little bit about our left-handed pitching sensation, Mr. Jason Farley. We also have his numbers. We'd like to throw them up on the screen and show you what Jason is capable of doing. He has an 8-1 record, 47 innings pitched, 70 Ks, guys. That's pretty incredible. A .36 ERA.
.36.
And at one point, gentlemen, I got to read this stat out there. He came in with a 6-0 record with a 0.00 earned run average. So that's pretty special, being able to do that through 6 starts. 8 victories for the Warhawks in their 18-1 campaign this year. He's only allowed 20 hits, and his college is undecided. We're going to hope to pull that out of him before the end of the night. Not really sure if he's willing to go there yet, but hopefully we'll be able to give you something special at home, knowing where Mr. Jason Farley will be throwing that left hand.
.36 ERA basically means like he had half a run scored against him. Like the guy got 1 foot like on home plate, but he didn't get all the way across. It's pretty impressive, man. It's pretty impressive. I used to be a bad pitcher when I was in high school. What was sort of your motivation to become a pitcher?
Well, I've always liked to pitch since I was younger, playing single A, and I guess since I was left-handed, they automatically threw me right into pitching. And I've always loved pitching, and that's just my favorite thing to do.
Did you have anybody you looked up to when you were a kid, as far as pitchers?
I looked up to a lot of big leaguers like Randy Johnson and like Andy Pettit. And then there's also been guys like J.J. Hollenbeck and Josh Canova that I've watched play as I grew up. And they also are mentors to me, and I talk to them every now and then about the game. So they're sort of role models for me.
Jason, you're part of a 7-man, according to Coach Mark Jorman over at Madison High School, you're part of a 7-man pitching staff. I know the rotation probably doesn't go that deep, but you guys do have 7 pitchers. You personally, teams hit an average of 131 against you. That's pretty nasty. Talk pitching staff-wise, and talk a little bit about 1 through 4, a little bit about some of the guys that can get up there, like a Sam Gilbert or a Jesse Jeter, a Kevin Ashcraft. Talk a little bit about what those guys bring to the table, and you being on the mound, you have the ability to throw a couple innings and get out of there and have a little confidence as well in knowing that it's going to get done.
Yeah, well, all of our pitchers are great. I think the most important thing that all of our pitchers learned this year is just to wear out the strike zone and let our defense work. And all of our pitchers have done a great job of that so far. And guys like Sam Gilbert and Jeter and Kevin, they all know what it takes to be a good pitcher, and they know that our defense is going to work behind them, and they just go out there and throw strikes and get the job done.
It's going to be a real geeky pitcher kind of question, but I mean, like in the Liberty, you've got a lot of bats in the Liberty that you got to face on a night in, night out basis. You talk about the kids at Woodson, people like that. I mean, from a pitching standpoint, how do you approach it? Do you try to get as much information about the hitters before the game as you can? Do you kind of go into it blind? I mean, how do you manage a game that way heading into it?
Well, I like to know a little bit about the hitters, but a lot of that our pitching coach takes care of.
Who's
he
your
calls
pitching
all the
coach?
pitches. Justin Counts.
Okay.
He's a great pitching coach, and he takes care of all of that. And he just calls the pitches, and I trust every pitch that he calls. And I know no matter what he calls, it's going to be the right pitch, and I just throw what he calls.
And it's been the right pitch a lot this year, guys. 70 Ks. Let's talk to you, though, Mark, a little bit. I mean, on the opposite end of that, you've got some guys that are gunning for you, leadoff guy of an 18-1 squad. How do you deal with that from the opposite end? Are you trying to read pitches from other guys? Are you trying to absorb information and know what's coming at you that night? And do you know in high school baseball who's taking the mound? Can you get that sort of information before you get up there?
We usually have an idea of who's going to start against us, but it can definitely change from night to night. My job as a leadoff man, I try to see as many pitches as I can in my first at bat, give my teammates a chance to see what this guy's throwing, because a lot of the times in high school you'll face a guy you've never faced before, so just try to give everybody a look.
And speaking of giving everybody looks, you guys are a team that, you see some teams out there that just go out there and swing for the fences on everything. You guys, and I can compare you to a team like Oakton as well that does some of the same things, and maybe it's because you come from some of the same youth baseball, and your coaches also work well together. You guys can play small ball too, even though you've got the power. I remember seeing you guys against South Lakes, Jason, when you took those young men apart. But at the plate, Armin Maneri gets a base hit bunt. You guys can also throw down the bunt. Talk a little bit about what it's like to play for Pudge, and does he put you in situations like that, and what is it like to have that knowledge coming down and knowing that it's most likely going to work because it's coming from Pudge?
Well, we pride ourselves on doing the little things. So, every single guy on our team can bunt, even a power hitter like Armand, and Sterling Sams, and all those guys. So whatever Pudge tells us to do, we're confident that's the right decision. He's obviously made a few good decisions in his time. He's, a ton of wins. He knows what he's doing. So we just trust what he's doing and try to execute as best we can.
And speaking of wins, Greg, we have a trivia question for these young gentlemen right here.
Oh,
we want
really?
to see exactly how much they know about Madison baseball. And Mark segued perfectly right into it. Let's throw it up there and see if these young men can solve this question.
How many district, regional, and state championships combined all time has the Madison baseball team won since inception in 1959? How many?
That's a lot of adding up. I'm in discrete math. I'll let Jason take this one.
Rough estimate.
I know we got 3 state championships.
We got 4 regional, right?
Yeah, that's 7, and then
District.
Is there a number that comes to mind at this point? Would you like to know the answer?
I'd love to know.
All right, here it comes. The answer is actually 25.
Oh, there you go.
That's
25.
right.
Look at that.
16
It was
districts.
6 regional championships.
Close.
Don't shortchange yourselves.
Sorry about that.
No problem.
Well, you'll just be running suicides tomorrow at practice.
Pudge, I apologize.
You didn't know, so that's okay. But look, that tells you something about the Madison history, the program that you step into when you get there. Is it something that you know when you get there? Is it something that you know you have to step up to be a part of, or are you brought along through the system? What's the dynamic, and how does Pudge work you two guys, successful as you are, how have you been worked into the system?
Well, I think he uses the older players a lot to kind of lead us along the way. I know when I first came into the program as a freshman, he told me the one person I should really look up to was Mark, because Mark had been a freshman the year before. So Mark kind of showed me the ropes the whole way through, and he still does with everything we do.
I remember back in the state championship year a couple of years back, there was such a communal feel to everything. You had alumni that still are in the area to come back. You go to Vienna Inn any night of the week and you're going to see an old Madison ball player there. Is that, from what you've been able to gather in your time in high school, is that different than other programs? Do other programs have that sort of family feel to it, or is it kind of unique to Madison?
Madison High School is a very special place to be able to play. Town of Vienna really rallies around our athletics and around the baseball program. It's great to go out there and play in front of a bunch of guys from Vienna Little League. Because when we were younger, I know Jay and I, we went to games and we always dreamed of playing for Madison. So it's kind of, you get that feel.
There
always
you go.
Looking up to the guys.
And it's got to be a dream season. These guys have they've hit 156 runs, guys, driven in, and they've only allowed 37. And that's something I wanted to talk to you guys about. And correct me if this stat is incorrect. 46 out of 47 innings have been shutouts. I believe you've got 4 consecutive, but 46 out of 47 innings.
Wow.
They have not allowed a run, and that is very special. That's fundamental baseball. They're playing against some contenders out there too. This is not just softy baseball, and they've shut out 9 teams this year total. They went down on the spring break tournament and they beat Wando, which was a team that was ranked nationally, now ranked nationally behind them, and they earned that national ranking and went on a 6-0 run down there. Everybody did their part. They put a rack of guys on the tournament team, and some guys that were hitting 400 for the tournament weren't even put on the all-tournament team. That says something about your guys' depth. Let's talk a little bit, though, about the McLean game. And I know that, having said all the great things about you guys, that's one thing that I know you've got on your record that you don't want there, but it did happen. And talked to Coach Jorman about it, early in the year after it happened. And, he said, look, better now than later. What are your thoughts about what happened in that game? And since then, what's the talk? Baseball ranks, and what can you guys do in the postseason to set that straight?
Well, I think we kind of used it as motivation. Obviously, we didn't ever want to lose a game, but if there had to be a time, earlier was always better than later. And we kind of took that and used it as motivation. And we know that if we don't come to play every night, that on any given night, any team is going to be able to beat us, no matter how good they are, how good we are.
Yeah, my hats go off to McLean. I mean, they played a great game, and we stranded a lot of base runners that game. There were a lot of things we could have done better, but they played great. They came out to beat us. But as you said, I mean, it happened early in the season rather than later. So, you can always learn from your losses, and hopefully we'll make the most of it.
You talked about the culture of baseball at Madison. Talk a little bit about the culture of baseball in Northern Virginia. I mean, basically, you guys can play all year round up here, which is a benefit that maybe some people in the state don't necessarily have. I mean, the fact that it is basically a year-round sport in Northern Virginia, how has that helped you as players growing up?
Well, I think it's a great thing that we can go out on almost any day of the year, be able to get on a field somewhere and be able to play, even if it's just like a pickup game. And Northern Virginia has had a lot of great players, especially in the past couple of years, guys like Brandon Snyder who've been drafted, and a lot of other good players. And I think it's that we're just blessed to be able to play here as much as we possibly can.
There you go.
Mark, going to a place like UVA, and we talked a little bit about it before the show got going. What have you been able to tell Jason about, and Jason's getting a lot of looks now, he's come along very well this year and really made a name for himself in the mainstream, even though a lot of people knew his name before that. What are some things you've been able to communicate to him about the recruiting process that you think could help him during that long, and I know sometimes it's a difficult journey?
Well, we were talking about this on the way over, and I told him it's a really exciting time, which I think he's starting to experience. He's going to get a lot of opportunities, a lot of looks, and you just got to make sure that he needs to look everywhere that's interested in him and make sure that he shows interest, take a look around, see if it's the right thing for him.
All right, Farley, where are you going to college?
Don't know yet.
All right.
Not yet.
Fair enough. Let me ask you a couple questions, getting away from the high school thing real quick and hitting the major league level. What team do you guys follow, major league-wise?
Red Sox.
Really?
Yeah.
You got a team you follow or no?
I follow the Cubs, which right now is not very good. That's a sore topic. I'd rather not talk about it.
Oh, that is a very sore topic. What do you think of the Nationals being in town? I mean, you guys grew up around here, so why didn't you just convert like everybody was supposed to?
It's not that simple.
Yeah.
I'm a Cubs fan for life, even if they have lost 7 or 8 straight.
Oh, goodness.
What do you think of the Nats? Do you think that was a good idea moving them to Virginia, to DC? Well, moving to Virginia would have been a better idea, but moving them to DC.
Yeah, I think it's real cool that we have a team that's local that we can go watch whenever we want, being in the professional rankings, and it's good to be able to go out and watch guys who have gone through the same stuff we have, and just watch how far we can go with hard work and what they've done with their careers.
Yeah.
They need to start winning a little bit more, though.
Yeah.
Do you think? Yeah, it might be a good idea. And on the high school level, like I'm sure you guys talk about what happens in Major League Baseball. What's the scuttlebutt on the Bonds thing? I mean, you guys talk about it at all, or is it just a non-issue because he's a fraud, or how do you deal with it?
I am. I'm not a huge fan of Barry Bonds.
Yeah.
I mean, it's it's a shame that baseball's getting tainted because of this. And my friend Jason here, he might look like he's on the roids because he's so ripped, but he's not. Just a message out there to everybody.
Oh, goodness.
But in all seriousness, with Rafael Palmeiro last year and other guys that have been implicated, it's actually a shock with some guys that you think, Rafael Palmeiro, he's such a good guy and you don't expect it. It's really a letdown and very disappointing as a baseball fan in general, not just, not as an Orioles fan or anything like that.
And of course, Palmeiro, BJ, goes from being the pitch man for Viagra to using steroids, basically proving there's nothing he wouldn't put in his body to help his bat.
Which is, ladies and gentlemen, that is a line straight out of Greg Wyshynski's book, Will Pucks and 10-Cent Beer, the 101 Worst Sports Ideas in History, which is a great read.
Oh, you can't say it's just available out there.
It is available. But hey, real quick, guys, we've got a couple more minutes with you. I do want to touch on the postseason. What are some expectations realistically, what can you guys do, and what's the thought out there? What are the knocks on Madison? Everybody, we know all the great things, but what are some things that some teams say about you guys that you think aren't true and you want to disprove?
Well, we're not too worried about what anybody's saying about us. We're just going to go out there and take care of our business. We set some high goals for ourselves this year, and we're looking to take it step by step, first with district tournament, then the regional tournament, and make a run for that state tournament.
That's a Mark Jorman soldier right there, boy. That is a Mark Jorman soldier.
Pudge is like Mark Bendorf, where they both have this incredible way of molding and shaping young minds to follow the party line, and I'm always impressed by it. I'm always impressed by it.
And that's why it works, guys. And I've got to throw that out there to you too. How do you think you have the advantage over other teams playing for a coach? There's certain big name coaches in the area. You've got your Mark Jormans, you've got your Bendorf coaches, you've got a couple of other big name guys out there. You're lucky in that respect that you've got him. What are some intangibles that guys in the media, parents don't see in that practice? What are some things he does that helps bring you guys along?
Well, I think Pudge just does a great job of bringing out the best in all of his players and really keeping us focused on what our goals are and not getting sidetracked by what other teams are saying, what other people are saying, and just focus on what we're trying to do as a team and keep it there.
There you go. I have another geek pitcher question I want to ask you. If you could force every hitter at the high school level to play with a wood bat, would you?
Yeah.
But now, Mark, if you had to hit with a wood bat at the high school level, would you?
Why not?
Why not?
Why not?
Yeah, first time.
I like the sound better.
Yeah, I like the sound better. First time a fastball off the hands doesn't travel to
I'll stick with the
fence.
metal bat for now.
Yeah.
He likes a challenge. That's what I like to see. Let's do a little loop around the Liberty, if you will, going into the Liberty District Tournament. What are some teams that scare you? I mean, obviously, being a baseball player, you're not going to say, we're too worried about anybody, but there are some positives out there in the district tournament, as you guys did experience last year. There are some teams out there that can jump up and bite you. What are some teams out there that you're looking at that can potentially jump up and get you, or can anyone touch you this year?
Well, there's some solid teams in our district, and I think that's been proven so far this season. We're excited to get another shot at McLean, but we're just going to keep going out there and doing our thing, not worrying about anybody.
What do you have to do? Say it's a McLean Madison district final. What do you guys have to do to get them? What do you have to do to beat the second place team in the Liberty District right now? What did you not do? I know you guys stranded 10 runners last game, and I know, I talked to Pudge after that game, and he said, look, sometimes you're going to have those times. We weren't able to overcome it. You tipped your hat to them earlier. What do you have to do to beat them, and what are you guys going to do the next time you do see them, if you do?
Well, I think it's most important that we focus on playing our game and not working our game around how they play, and just going out and do the things we do the best. And I think if we do that, we can beat anybody in the region or the state.
Very good, very good. All right, boys, you can have, we're running out of time here with the segment, you can have yourselves a little bit of a platform, a little bit of a sounding board. Anything you boys want to share with the viewers at home?
Actually, what's her last name?
Lamberti.
Okay. Caroline, would you like to go to prom with Alex Andrews? He wanted me to ask this. He's too scared to ask you himself, so I figured I'd do it for him. I'm a good friend.
Let's open up the phone lines now.
So the question is, Caroline, will you go to prom with Alex Andrews, asked by Mr. Mark Riffey on Fairfax Sports Network? And if you do, I would like to see the photos of prom. I would like to have a nice prom shot on the Fairfax Sports Network. Mr. Jason Farley, we'd like to give you the floor. Anything you'd like to say?
No, I don't
Really?
have
Because
anything.
all of a sudden it's love connection, and anything you really want to do would be fine.
Oh, yeah. Actually, Alex, he does go to a salon. He's our catcher.
He gets a perm.
He gets a perm.
Yeah.
That's pretty incredible. That is incredible.
He just
That's a
wanted
lot.
to make sure we threw his name in here
He
today.
must spend a lot more than you and I spend at super duper cuts or wherever we go.
In fact, right now, Alex Andrews' mother is writing him a note to get out of school tomorrow because he will not be showing his face in the hallways of Madison High School. Gentlemen,
When is prom, by the way?
June 3rd.
June 3rd?
Yeah,
You guys all straight with that? Or
We are.
Fantastic.
now there's a postseason to be had there, so We want to
Yeah.
make sure that
You
There
guys
will be
see-
no distraction.
You got a limo and everything, or?
Oh, there'll be a limo.
Oh, that's
It'll
what
be
we
a
like
good
to hear.
time.
Hummer limo, because that's really the only
That'd
way
be
you
cool.
go. That would be cool.
Maybe a Escalade limo.
There you go. You can have a super sweet prom. There you go. Isn't that be wonderful? All right, boys.
Very nice.
All right, Mark Riffey, Jason Farley, thank you. Madison Baseball Warhawks, which you mentioned the team they play for. Thank you for joining us tonight on the Fairfax Sports Report. Continue good luck this season, and of course in the postseason.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Madison plays Langley, I believe,
On Friday night.
on Friday. If anybody would like to go out to the game and check that out.
Aces. All right, we're
Good
gonna
to
take
have
a
you guys.
Great
Yeah,
to be
absolutely.
here.
We're going to take a short break. We'll be back with plenty of stuff, lacrosse, soccer, baseball, softball, all that good stuff, here on the Fairfax Sports Report. All right, everybody, welcome back to the Fairfax Sports Report. Greg Wyshynski of the Connection Newspapers, PJ Kubaroulis of the Connection Newspapers. Thanks to our new friends, Riffey and Farley, for coming by and hanging with us and talking some baseball.
Some nice young gentlemen, you know. They
Absolutely.
are truly a testament to Madison's baseball program, and they are truly a testament to the coaching of Mark Jorman over there that can get those guys on board and truly believe and buy into his program.
And I mean, you know, we touched on it during the interview, but boy, that program, and we mentioned Mark Bendorf, it's very much like Robinson football. I mean, year after year after year, even when it looks like they're going to be rebuilding, they're challenging for a title. You know, it's amazing.
Last year was a difficult year for them, and it was something that they were unaccustomed to, and a lot of teams could crumble after something like that. And boy, did they ever come back strong. I mean, nationally ranked and just coming back and just beating down the Liberty. I think it's good to have that one loss on their record. I know they don't want to hear that right now. They'd rather be 19-0 than 18-1, but I think it definitely serves as a sort of a reminder for them of what they've got to do. The last team that went 29-0 over there won the state title, and
Right.
surely they'd like to do that. They did mention some of the players from that team having come up in the youth leagues and watching those players, but I think it's good to give a team like that a little bit of a kick in the butt and get them back into the swing of things. And coach can preach and preach and preach, but not taking anybody lightly is something sometimes you have to learn by yourself.
Absolutely. You know, and Farley mentioned J.J. Hollenbeck and Canova. I mean, those two guys and other guys from those championship years, and all of the championship years, they always come back. They always teach the new class how to do it, how to handle the pressure. And let's be honest. I mean, when you're a Madison baseball player, no different than being a Robinson football player, no different than being a West Springfield boys soccer player. I mean, there is a lineage of success that you have to live up to when you wear that uniform. And I think it's impressive that year after year, new classes, new kids, rookies, you know, they're able to do it.
It's definitely impressive. I mean, you know, having to fill those shoes and do it so gracefully as those two have been able to do. And there's also some other players over at Madison that have done a great job. And those are only two of such a lineup that does it together as a team. I know it's very cliche, but it's very true about that program. That's the reason they get it done, because they have all bought into Pudge's system, and it works. It's proven to work time and time again.
Gracefully, huh? What are they, Brian Boitano? Exactly. All right, let's talk a little bit about Northern Region baseball as a whole. I mean, Madison, I think right now has got to be the front runner. I don't think there's any question about that. You look over at the National District, Edison playing pretty well, but who knows when you get out of the National District what happens on a regional level. And you look over at the Concord District, and once again, you've got this sort of top-heavy district. I know Robinson had a big win recently against Fairfax in the Concord District, but again, you know, Westfield, Oakton, Robinson, Fairfax, even Centerville is still sort of in the mix, and you never know what Herndon's going to give you. And Chantilly's there too. I mean, it's a very, very, very strong district, I think, and you never know what's going to happen once you get to that tournament.
And, you know, let's be honest here. Traditionally, the two strongest districts are the Liberty and the Concord, and it's all about coaching, but it's also a lot about the talent that you bring in. And, I think that Oakton baseball is a testament to that this year. They've got a coach in Scott Rowland that won a state title in 2000, and the tradition has helped carry that program through a year this year that has been incredibly trying on a program that lost, three great players at the beginning of the season, two of them to preseason practice injuries, okay? Chris Despins was out for the first half of the season. I just saw him take Daniel Lombardozzi from Herndon yard into the right field trees over at Oakton High School. And you've got a guy like Curtis Eward who's out for the year. They could really use his bat. And if they did, we may be talking about them in the same breath as Madison. Oakton's won 10 straight baseball games right now. I saw them beat Herndon on Friday. And they've got a kid they threw out on the mound, Eric Cantrell, only a junior, and he held Herndon to 3 hits. Now, is that because Oakton has a good pitching staff? I don't know. But is it because Herndon is slumping at the plate? And that's something we've got to talk about too. Before I jump on over to Herndon, though, I do want to mention Tom Rowland of Reston, Virginia. Is a great viewer of this show. He loves the show. He watches it anytime it's on. Tom Rowland is the father of Oakton baseball coach Scott Rowland. And Tom, we're all praying for you and hoping that you are going to get well. And we appreciate you watching the show. But, talking to Scott after the Herndon victory, I said, hey, what does this victory mean for your bats? You guys only got 3 hits. He said, well, apparently not much, but they're all up there. They're all swinging away. They're all trying to get, a hit. They only got 3 of them, but hey, look, it was a 1-0 victory that gave them the 9th straight win. They beat Fairfax on Monday for their 10th straight. These guys got 10 straight wins. They were in the basement of the Concord in the Northern Region 2 weeks ago, and here they are suddenly 10 straight wins. Pretty incredible what Coach Scott Rowland's been able to do over there at Oakton High School, but you got to talk about Westfield on top. And they got a familiar name over there in Snyder. They got twins over there with the last name Snyder, and boy, does that mean a lot of good things. They're only sophomores. They're coming up through the ranks. Brandon Snyder's younger brothers, about 6'3", 6'4", each of them. Big kids. One of them's a DH. And they're pretty impressive in what they're able to do at their age level. I think it means great things for Westfield's future.
There you go. Now over the Patriot District, looking at the standings, it looks like the top 3 are pretty solidified. You got Lake Braddock, Hayfield, Coach Gallagher doing a great job over there, and West Springfield sort of in the top of the district. Then you got South County. It looks like in their first season might be locked into that sort of 4-5 game. Still a dangerous team. Obviously, anytime you've got some pitching, they're going to be a little dangerous in the postseason. And but that's the way the Patriot District sort of breaks down. It'd be a big surprise, I think, if any of the top seeds didn't make it out of the bracket come postseason time in the Patriot District tournament, and then you sort of have that 4-5 game as being sort of the question mark.
And Braddock is second in runs forced with 156 this year, second to Hayfield actually, which has 158 runs scored. So that's pretty impressive that those teams right up there, tied for first place in the Patriot District, have only a 2-run separation between them, 11-2 records for both of them in their conference, and 15-3 record for Braddock and a 15-4 record for Hayfield. So that's a tight little race over there in the Patriot. It might be the tightest going on in the region besides Oakton and Westfield, which started yesterday tied for first place in the Concord District. Westfield has since won an extra game. Oakton playing Chantilly right now. If all goes well, Benji Kagan is a pitcher that could quite possibly see time on the mound right now. He's got 7 victories on the year. He's been a big part of that Cougar baseball team's resurgence in Vienna as the other team in Vienna right now. And we might see a battle for Vienna in the regional title game.
Could be. And we should mention, you talk about this being the first season in baseball for after the redistricting. You look around the region, Robinson and Fairfax both in contention in the Concord District. There's no question that Stonebridge has benefited from the move. They're about, I think, 4th or 5th right now in the Liberty District. The only team in this redistricting that's really suffered, I think, is Lee, which had contended in the Liberty District for years in baseball and is right now, I think, close to or in the basement in a Patriot with T.C. Williams.
And we got a chance to talk about with the young men that were here from Madison tonight, and I want to talk about another team. You talk about a team like Lee that's dropped off in the Patriot, but a team like McLean has surged in the Liberty, and they've got a pitching staff over there. John Thomas in his first year, they inherited an old pitching staff. Shane Mills, Danny Bell, those guys get in there and get it done. Shane Mills is a closer that I just can't talk enough about this kid. He's a great player, and I think he's giving that team a run, an opportunity to make a postseason run. They're the only team that's got Madison's number this year. I know they want to make that right. You did mention Stonebridge. Stonebridge is a team that's coached by Sam Plank. What an incredible coach he is. He's got those guys always doing great things in the Double-A. Look, first year in the Liberty, and they're tearing it up. One team I do got to mention in the same breath as the Loudon School in Stonebridge is Loudon Valley, all by themselves there in the Dulles District because they're playing that combination district, but they're 12-2 in the Dulles and 15-5 overall. Once they play that postseason schedule, they're coming in as the number 8 seed. They always do because of that combination district. They're a scary team, and they better watch out in the district there for them to come in and make a little run at the number 1 seed.
Absolutely. All right, let's move on to some softball talk. Real briefly, it looks like Stonebridge has the Liberty wrapped up by virtue of a win this week, and it looks like that West Potomac, despite some pretty big injuries, has the Patriot wrapped up. As usual, sort of a dogfight in the Concord, but there's only one story, my friend, to talk about in softball this week.
What is that?
That would be the mighty Seahawks, South Lakes.
Well, look, we got to talk about this. 33 is the number.
Yes.
Now, remember that number, 33. That is a 33-game losing streak that
Yes.
the South Lakes Seahawks girls erased and ended on senior night in Reston against McLean.
Now let's put this in perspective. 33 games sounds like a lot.
It is a lot, Greg.
Most pony teams play 33 games in a day. But for a high school team, 33 games is about 3 years worth of softball.
And actually, that's
And
exactly what it is.
losses.
They lost their last game of the 03-04 season, in which they were 5-14. They went 0-16 last year. Anytime you go 0 and whatever in any sport, it's very difficult. And they lost a rack of games this year before beating McLean on senior night, which is incredible. For them to do that on senior night, a 3-1 victory over McLean, doesn't say a whole lot for what McLean is doing over there. I know it's been a difficult season. They've got some issues with getting players to make every game, but their last victory at South Lakes, May 13th of 2004.
Wow.
A 5-4 victory over Marshall.
That's amazing.
That's a 33-game losing streak. To end that, to put that behind them, it's something that the South Lakes High School has started to do with a lot of their programs. Their basketball team, girls basketball, did the same thing this year. They came off an 0-21 season. They ended that losing streak, which I believe was up to 27. So South Lake's starting to turn it around a little bit. Linda Jones is over at the head of the ship over there as the AD, and I know they're turning things around. So good to see Coach Sam Farrar over there, a good friend of mine at South Lakes, getting it turned around, and I know that makes him feel a whole lot better about things. At McLean, you do got to be worried, though, if you're the team that did lose to a team that hasn't won in 33 games in 3 seasons.
Well, that said, every team, everybody's due at some point to win, so you can't really. I don't know if you could read too much into McLean's fortunes based on that, but every time you see a team get off the schneid like this, a team that has lost so many games, I always think back to when I was covering Lee football, and seeing that team lose basically, I think it was like 19 straight games. I mean, and in football, that's an eternity. I mean, losing that many games over the course of a couple seasons in football, it feels like forever. And after a while, that sort of malaise sets in, where you lose. You go into every game thinking, all right, what has to happen? What miracle has to happen for us to win this game? Because we're going to lose it otherwise. And to see a team break a streak like that is just, it's such a credit to everybody in that team that could have walked away or could have found something else better to do with their time. And to stick with it and finally see that thing through, it to me is such a testament to student athletes at that school.
There was 3 seniors that were honored that night, and I think a lot of kids probably did walk away, Greg, being honest, and I think the 3 seniors that were there, one of them made the game-clinching catch to get the final out, and she was quoted, one of our reporters was at the game, and he wrote an incredible story about it, and she was quoted as saying, going through her mind when she was going up for that last catch was, please don't drop this ball, please don't drop this ball. And I think we've all been in a situation where we want something to happen so bad, and the nerves are there, and once it does happen, it's got to feel great. And after 3 years, guys, there's not enough that we could say to put that in perspective, but it's good to see South Lakes getting things turned around.
Absolutely, absolutely. All right, switching up to soccer real quick, specifically little girls soccer. Big win by West Springfield to kind of move into a first-place tie with Hayfield this week. They knocked off the Hawks 4-2. So again, you look at the Patriot District picture, you got West Springfield, Hayfield, Lake Braddock all sort of near the top, and that will be a heck of a postseason. I think those teams will be a heck of a force regionally. I think they shouldn't necessarily have too much of a problem in their own district. But there you have a lot of power again coming out of the Patriot District. And
just to jump to the Liberty real quick, Madison finished the regular season undefeated with a defeat over Langley, which is a powerhouse program. Coach Melissa Bibby got her 100th victory against Woodson 2 weeks ago, and this team was really slated to do really well after having lost 3 of its really incredible players. And they've lost 2 now, and Madison finished undefeated, kind of snuck in right there at the last minute. So Madison going to make some noise in the postseason too. Coach Kurt Kuykendall has his daughter Jamie on the team. I know she was suffering through some injuries, but is going to come back and help lead that team, I think, through the postseason. And we'll see some teams definitely fighting it out there. and I think it's going to be interesting, as girls soccer in this area always is in the postseason.
Oh, absolutely. And you look at the Concord district, I mean, that's a district that clearly when the redistricting happened, everybody said, wow, putting Robinson's girls soccer team in this mix is just going to make this district all the better. And you could see it. I mean, Chantilly on top, Centerville right there, Robinson right there, Westfield right there. And you never know what's going to happen with an Oakton team or a Fairfax team when you get to the postseason. But the top 4 in that district, I mean, that is a lot of power right there. And Chantilly right now is playing some great soccer, and so is Centerville. So I mean, it's a great up year for the Concord, and it's going to be interesting to see what those teams do on a regional level.
And we should jump to the boys for a minute, too, and just mention what they've been able to do. McLean and Woodson met last night. McLean was a team that went into this game that had only won most of its games in the Liberty District by 1 goal or more. They'd only scored 2 two-goal victories on the season. And so a lot of teams kind of thought they were, maybe a weaker team that had kind of slid by. I got a chance to talk to Coach Andy Wagner about that at McLean. And, he said, look, they can think whatever they want. Going into that Woodson game, we've got to step up. I don't care what others think. They've got some other guys over there at McLean that can really play. Stephen Byro is a really physical guy, one of the most carded guys in the Liberty District, but he's only a junior and he plays like a senior and a half. So this is a guy they like to get up in the air and they like to use the header. It's something that's strategically used at McLean. Brian McElhaney, another guy, and Doug Havens. 3 guys I wanted to mention over at McLean High School. They did lose a 1-0 game to Woodson, and Woodson did clinch the Liberty District regular season title and will go in as the #1 seed in the Liberty District. And Woodson looks to be a team that is pretty vicious for the postseason, but I think the West Springs of the world are going to kind of dominate their way through the postseason tournament, and that district is definitely going to see some success.
Yeah, Lake Braddock obviously too is a team to watch. Looking at lacrosse, that's a sport that's actually in the postseason now. So we can stop predicting what might happen and actually talk about what did happen. And over in the Patriot District, one of the greatest stories of the season in any sport right now, the T.C. Williams boys lacrosse team, never really known to be a world beater, usually not even in the picture title-wise in a district that for a long time has been dominated by the likes of Robinson before they moved, and Lake Braddock and Annandale, teams like that. #1 seed in the district tournament, and they win their first round game 11-1, scheduled to play West Springfield in the semifinals. West Springfield, a good win in the 4-5 game, 8-6 over Annandale. The other winners in the bracket, Hayfield 13-6 over West Potomac, and South County. South County gets the overtime win over Lake Braddock, and Dave Bagetta gets that team into the semifinals, into the regionals.
And we've got to talk about it. When you mention a guy like Dave Bagetta, who had some trials and tribulations last year, and I know you got a chance to talk to him about it when they had 7 victories on the season. For a first-year program to come along like that, you don't see that very often, and especially in what we call a fringe sport like lacrosse. I mean, everybody wants to play basketball, everyone wants to play baseball, everyone wants to play football. Lacrosse, and you come in your first year and you win the first postseason game of the entire school's history, that's got to be redemption for Bagetta, a guy that did go out
and of course,
in a blaze of glory.
All of that stuff with Bagetta and the fight, the players leaving the bench, that all happened against Lake Braddock at Robinson. So it even brings another level of irony to it. But yeah, I mean, clearly. You look at at South County's boys lacrosse team, and I talked to Coach Bagetta about this. I mean, there is a certain correlation you can draw between the discipline that was in place for the football team in the fall and what we see now in the lacrosse season in the spring. I just think that there's a certain mindset and temperament right now in the South County athletic programs that you can now see starting to take hold. The seeds have been planted, and now they're taking hold in the spring, and you're seeing some really good things on the boys' side of the program. But again, that's not to say that you don't see good things on the girls' side too. The girls' lacrosse program also wins their first playoff game. They knock off Hayfield by the score of I think it was about 12-3 or something like that. And of course that game is significant because those are the two schools.
Right.
Hayfield split apart. South County grabbed all of Hayfield's players. I mean, Mary Beth Butler, who coached her last game for the Hawks in that loss, said, I'm the one with the new team.
Right.
All the players that were on Hayfield's program last year are now over at South County with Coach Mahoney. So I mean, it's a great win for South County. They of course will now move on, and both the South County lacrosse teams in the regionals. It's pretty impressive.
And we've got some teams playing tonight, right now, as we speak. Concord District boys Oakton taking on Chantilly as we speak at Oakton High School. Oakton, the returning 3-time state unofficial champion, looking for the first official championship. And of course, the VHSL will recognize the lacrosse tournament this year as official. Robinson played Westfield at Westfield. Robinson got the 17-2 victory over Centerville. Robinson comes in as the 3 seed. Oakton, of course, got the first round bye, and Chantilly had to earn their way into that second round with an 8-5 victory over a hard-fought Herndon team. And of course, Westfield came in as the number 2 seed, facing off with Robinson. If all plays out correctly, or the way that it looks like it should, Oakton could play Westfield for the district title, at Westfield. And this is Oakton, the returning state champion, whose last in-region loss was to Westfield last year. And it's something I got a chance to talk to the guys about and Tony Gray about last year. That's something that they still haven't forgotten, and they really still have a chip on their shoulder, and I think that would be a very hard-fought game.
And of course, in the Liberty District, Langley, Stonebridge, Woodson, Jefferson. Know the names, because on the boys' side and the girls' side, that's who advanced. You don't often see it sort of break down that way, but boy, Stonebridge, Stonebridge comes in, lacrosse. People talk about the length of time lacrosse has been an official sport here in the Northern Region. I mean, it's basically almost still in its. Did Madison advance?
Right. In the girls, I believe Stonebridge might have got the victory, but I believe Madison might have upset the lower seed, so they are taking on Langley right now,
okay.
And Langley's kind of the team to deal with. But Madison, a lot of people, Greg, thought Madison was out of it, to be honest with you. But you do talk about Stonebridge, and in a girls' respect, they come in and they are really a team to be dealt with. I mean, and this is a sport in Loudoun County that is really still new.
It's still in its infancy, and disregard everything I said about the brackets, because evidently something got screwed up in my brackets. But the fact that you have a Loudoun County school coming into the Northern Region, even having any modicum of success. I mean, Stonebridge during the regular season was sort of a middle of the pack kind of team. And I mean, you look, the timeline of lacrosse goes, everyone else in the Northern Region, then the Arlington schools, and then Loudoun County, as far as being where lacrosse has been, and it's impressive to see them come in and do as well as they've done.
Well, I want to talk about Langley boys really briefly, and there's a kid that we have to mention that entered the Liberty District Tournament with 42 goals already scored, and Langley put up 18 against Marshall, the number 8 seed, on Monday. Robbie McClay should be an All-American before all is said and done this year, and Langley as a whole is a deep team. It's not just Robbie McClay, who is the Liberty District Player of the Year. It is a team that put 12 players on the All-District team, 8 of them on the first team. And I talked to Coach Earl Brew over there, and among other things we spoke about, he did mention, he said, look, I went back through old newspaper clippings and old teams and all that. I couldn't find a team in his 12 years, he couldn't find a team that had put that many players on the all-district team, especially 8 on the first team is certainly unheard of.
Yeah, there you go. And should just mention, of course, Langley just blazed through the regular season, and now they're in the postseason and have to be considered one of the favorites right now.
Interesting fact, both Langley teams, boys and girls, finished the regular season undefeated. Richard DeSelmo, formerly of Braddock and Westfield, at the Langley girls program right now in his second year, has done a great job, has turned that program, I mean, you can't really say turned a Langley program around because they were already good, but I think he's helped take them to the next level. And they also had the Liberty District Player of the Year in Sarah Morse. So this is 2 Langley teams that they may be going for state tournament victories. They may be going for regional titles. These are true contenders. Langley put away McLean 17-2 on the girls' side and helped keep McLean winless on the season. You never like to see that, but McLean definitely in the same neighborhood as Langley, just not getting, I guess, the same players.
There you go. I want to mention one track note. Teresa McCoy, shot put artiste, if you will, for Lake Braddock, broke the school record with a toss of 41 feet, 6.5 inches. So congratulations to her and the Bruins track team.
Only 41 feet? Man, get out of here.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
nothing.
Right, there you go.
Well,
yeah, that's right. Okay, so in the time we have left, let's touch on real quick the NBA playoffs and the local team, the Wizards. They are, of course, out thanks to Mr. LeBron James, now the big issue that people had with the series in listening to the post-game show after the Wizards got knocked out, everybody had a gripe about LeBron James getting all the calls and never getting any calls for traveling and all this stuff. Do you buy into that, or do you think it's just sour grapes?
You can't buy into that, and I'll tell you why. When you're a team like the Lakers or the Bulls back in their day, when you won games and no one had anything to say about it because you dominated your way through and you just won the game. When you're the Wizards, you don't have the fortitude to be able to sit back and blame somebody else. When Brendan Haywood flails like a flopping fish in the key trying to block LeBron 2 minutes after the buzzer sounded on the game winner, you can't blame the refs.
Yeah.
You got to blame the players. You can't blame Eddie Jordan because a coach, and they're talking about on the radio now bringing in a defensive specialist coach. No. It's accountability with each player. They got to play the defense. You can coach it as much as you want. The guys got to get out there, and at any level, not just pro. You got to get out there and you got to play defense. If you want to win, seal off the baseline. They gave away 2 games in that series that they should have won because they didn't play defense when it counted.
Yeah, exactly. And I think Arenas is Arenas, and I think he's blossomed into a legitimate star off of this series. Missed 3 free throws notwithstanding. But the supporting cast, to me, I think Mike Wilbon wrote something about them not having any dog in them. To me, the supporting cast, defensively at least, doesn't really put a scare into you at all.
Yeah.
Defensively, and I think that's what they need to remedy. I don't know how you do it. I mean, I think the free agent market is pretty thin this year as far as trying to reconfigure things. I mean, Jerry Jeffries, we're talking about re-signing him. Is he going to blossom into a quality two-way player? I don't think he is.
Yeah, but you don't need to go out and spend $40 million to bring in one guy that can play defense. There's 5 guys on the court. Each of them have to play defense. And just because you bring in one guy that's going to be the enforcer, like in hockey, you can't have that.
No.
You got to have 5 guys playing defense because on defense in basketball, unlike any other sport, well, like several sports, if one guy breaks down, the weak link, that's it. They're going to score. No matter if it's baseball, a kid making an error, no matter if it's basketball, somebody breaking down on the baseline, or football, a lineman eating the dirt, they're going to run right through you.
Who's your pick right now for the NBA title?
Well, as much as I'd like to say the New Jersey Nets because I know you're a fan, I got to say the Detroit Pistons and the Dallas Mavericks are both looking very nasty.
If I were a betting man, which I'm not, well, at least in public, I'm not going to say I am, but Phoenix. I love watching the Suns. I think this might be the year they finally break through. I think you go through a series like they had with Kobe, and they're my pick right now.
But you can't put too much in that LA series because people forget that it was a 7 seed with no true big man.
All right, enough.
With no true big man. So
all right, folks. Coming up on the Fairfax Sports Network, FSN on the web. Check it out. You'll find out everything. www.fairfaxsportsnetwork.com. And thank you, CCI Screen Printing, for all of your screen printing needs. 703-978-0257. Thank you, Quality Care Ford Service Center, servicing all makes and models. 703-383-6299. And thank you, Greg Wyshynski, for writing Glow Pucks and 10-cent beer, the 101 worst ideas in sports history. Father's Day, Amazon.com, search for Glow Pucks. All kinds of good, stuff with that, and there you have it. So, I picked Phoenix, and you picked the Pistons.
It's going to be Pistons Dallas, I believe. I see that coming.
As long as it's not Pistons Clippers. That's all I'm saying. We don't need to see that. Don't need to see that one bit. All right. Hey, I want to thank the Madison boys for stopping by. Griffey and Farley were great guests, and want to thank you for watching the show. Join us next week for more fun and postseason stuff and good times all around, DJ. Oh, hey.